All right, Cris, what did yesterday's loss to the Colts tell us about this Cowboys team who, up until yesterday, had been playing very good football?
Well, here's the one thing I will say. One team had more urgency than the other one. It was clear to me that the Colts played yesterday's game as a gotta-have-it, and the Dallas Cowboys had a little bit of relax in them. I mean, they had won 5 straight. They were riding high. They all but locked up the division with that win over the Eagles last Sunday. So this was one of those games where they had a natural letdown. They went on the road.
Were you surprised by that? I mean, with a team with because they really got a lot to play for. There has to be some type of answer for that.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's hard to stay hot that long, CC. So, I mean, 5 straight wins, and then you look at where the Colts are at. There's a logjam for that 6th seed in the AFC wild card. I mean, there are a lot of teams there. The Dolphins are there. The Colts are there. The Ravens are there. I mean, there are teams that are jockeying for a position. The Tennessee Titans are there. So, I mean, the Colts needed to have that game. And so when I looked at the Dallas Cowboys yesterday, they didn't execute well offensively. They were 4-12 on 3rd down, 1 of 5 on 4th down. They were 0-2 in the red zone, and they had a blocked field goal. So, I mean, you're not going to beat teams, let alone good teams, on the road with that kind of performance. And it's the same story with Dak Prescott. We keep coming back to it. People are going to take Ezekiel Elliott away from them. They're going to drop extra defenders down in the box, talk them out of the run game. At some point, your quarterback has got to be better, especially in situational football. Yesterday, Dak was bad. 5 of 10 on 3rd downs, 1 sack, and that the completion percentage is probably a little inflated because there were a couple of checkdowns in there.
A lot of checkdowns.
But Dak has got to be more than just a passer. He's got to be a difference maker, and he was not that guy yesterday.
Unlike our earlier Bears discussion, I totally agree with you on this one. We went into this game, and I said the Cowboys are coming off as big as emotional high as you can come off of 3 straight games at home, all on national television, all seemingly must-win games. Now, they did basically have the division locked up. It is an early start on the road against a team that has to have it, and a team that is just as talented as the Cowboys. Talented in different ways, but if you're talking about overall, like, team rating, I would say the Cowboys and the Colts are in the exact same tier of team, even though they're built very differently. And so it was not surprising to me at all that the Colts won this game handily. Now, I didn't expect the Cowboys to be shut out, and in reality, they shouldn't have been shut out. You mentioned block field goal first drive after a long possession, and then the next drive down the field, they went for a touch. They went for a 4th down on 4th and really 1.5 or 2 from the 4-yard line. Got stopped there. The game easily could have been 7-6, 7-7 if they get it there, and then maybe we see something differently. But the most important factor to me about the Dallas getting 0 points was Dak couldn't build off the momentum of that 4th quarter and overtime. There was like that little hope, like, oh, okay, maybe, just maybe, playing that great and that big of a spot against that divisional rival is going to propel Dak. And it didn't. We've seen, we can show it, what he was in that 4th quarter. And this is the previous 3 games on the right-hand side. Everything he's done outside of that 4th quarter. He's got 1 touchdown, 3 picks, an 80 rating. Like, he's been below average, even in this winning streak leading into yesterday. Aside from that 4th quarter, he couldn't build on it at all.
Are we back to worrying about the Cowboys, or is this just one game where they just could not keep that intensity? We're not back to the proverbial drawing board with this team, are we?
Oh, well, Jenna, some other people might be, but I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to overreact when the Colts beat the Texans, who had won 9 in a row. Now they beat the Cowboys, who had won 5 in a row. No, I'm not going to overreact. There will be challenges if you limit Ezekiel Elliott's output offensively. You know that from Dak as a passer, but also you have to spread it around. Where was Amari Cooper? No one mentioned his name. We're a tandem. So when we're successful, you mention Amari Cooper. When they're not successful, we're not going to mention them. So you need to be able to mention him when you mention Dak Prescott, because their success, it goes together. But I'm not surprised, the NFL team, emotionally, the way they have played, that they had a letdown, but also the coaching staff. I don't know why they went for the 4th down early in the game. You just had a field goal block. You had a 10-play drive. You drove down. They blocked the field goal. Okay, they don't get any points. So at that point, you're down 7-0. You drive down again. You're inside the 5-yard line. There's no need to go for it on 4th down. Every situation on 4th down is totally different. Get those 3 points. Play the game out the way the game should be. Last week, yeah, it was at the end of the game. Yeah, you were trying to win the game. I can understand you going for it. This is not the time to be able to go for it. Get those points early in the game so you have some type of momentum. So I like to be able to spread it around. I'm not going to overreact. They've been on a tremendous run. They had a little letdown against a very, very physical Indianapolis team. Now, one thing I'm definitely going to disagree with you about. These teams are not the same talented teams. The Indianapolis Colts roster is not the same as the Dallas Cowboys. The Colts, maybe another year or two with Chris Ballard as a general manager, they're going to get some more physical players, but they showed what they've shown in the first 13 games where they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher. There's only 3 teams in the league. The Texans and the Saints have not allowed a 100-yard rusher. We saw that during the game, but this was a team that performed very well at home. They were energized. They had to have it, and this was a Cowboys team, very young, riding the emotional high of a 5-game winning streak.
But you also made a good point earlier that Frank Reich, coming from Philly, had played this team twice every year and knew how to beat them. So there was
I thought they were more equipped. Typically, Canty will tell you, when you spent your time at a certain place and you play them twice a week, there's tremendous intel that you can give, not only as far as what they're going to do, but you know the personnel. All right, so not only do I know what they're going to do, but listen, watch out for this guy, or we can take advantage of this guy, or this guy right here is all hype. You know, so you start to know that. I could see that in the early game planning, that they had a little more information. I'll give Frank Reich credit for that.
And the one thing that surprised me, you're right, absolutely right, CC, but the one thing that surprised me about yesterday's game in terms of the two teams, the Colts were way more physical than the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, just the physicality of it. I mean, defensively, I have not seen the Dallas Cowboys get whipped like that, especially up front in a long,
now, also,
time.
This was a patchwork offensive line.
Yeah.
You know, coming into the game, we know Zach Martin missed his first game at right guard, so now they had a replacement at center and both the guards positions.
Xavier Su'a-Filo went out during the game.
And the Colts took advantage of those replacement players.
No, they absolutely did. But, I mean, they also had 39 rushes for 178 yards, and Marlon Mack's long on the day was 21. So that's not an inflated statistic. They're getting 4 or 5 yards a pop. I mean,
and they kept Andrew Luck clean the entire game.
Well, they kept him clean, but he only had 27 dropbacks.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't the game offensively that I saw the Colts going into that game. Like, I didn't think that they would go with that kind of game plan against the Dallas Cowboys defense. If the Colts were going to win yesterday's game, I thought it had to be one of those situations where Andrew Luck was airing it out, but they went the opposite direction. They took the fight to that Dallas Cowboys defensive front. They run a lot of different things, some split flow looks, and their defensive line had a little bit of trouble with dealing with that. Yeah. Rod Marinelli, their defensive fronts, they like to go upfield, but guess what? The Colts were able to gash them inside between the tackles, and when you have that kind of running game, I mean, that's a situation that's going to make you hard to beat, especially at home. But moving forward into the postseason, this is a little bit of an eyebrow raiser for me, just because when you're talking about postseason football, teams that have success are typically the more physical teams, and the Dallas Cowboys were not that yesterday.
To answer your original question, Jenna, is like, are we now worried about the Cowboys again? I'm in a very similar place with the Cowboys I've been throughout the year. They are incredibly limited in the passing game. We have seen that even with Amari Cooper. We have seen that outside of that fourth quarter overtime explosion against Philly. And that explosion against Philly is probably looked at very differently if I think it was Russell Douglas, instead of just tipping the ball up in the air, catches it and goes the other way with it. This is a team, the defense didn't play great yesterday. The offensive line didn't play great yesterday. But we know how good their defense, offensive line, and running game are. But they are very limited passing the football, so they're in the same spot. It's going to be hard for them to blow teams out, and if any of their strengths is a weakness that day, they can get blown out.
I got Coach Pagano. He's on me saying, Chris, you got to give the defense coordinator from the Colts some credit. He's an ex-Dallas coach. He had intel, so not only Frank Reich, but their defensive coordinator, both of them knew the personnel, kind of knew what the scheme that they were going to attack them with.
All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.